The sad truth is that most people on this planet, still live short, brutal lives in miserable poverty.
Merci, c'est ça.
What did we do right in America so that we're not living like they are here in Haiti, or North Korea, or Mexico, or India? We start our look at what makes a country work well for its people by comparing three places: America, Hong Kong, and India. Here in India, much of the population lives in what we'd call slums. This family's home is this abandoned sewer pipe. Many survive by rummaging through garbage. 300 million people here have no running water, nothing clean to drink. Now, there are some affluent Indians, but they're the minority. You see much more of this, adults and children without enough to eat. It raises the question of why? Why do they have so little when America's so rich? Of course, we all know why India's poor. Too many people. When you have this kind of overpopulation, you can't have a good standard of living. Of course, as so often happens, what we all know isn't necessarily so. Consider Hong Kong. Talk about crowded. Hong Kong, per square mile, has 20 times as many people as India. Yet, Hong Kong is rich. Amazingly rich. There are more Rolls Royces in Hong Kong than anywhere else in the world. The harbors are filled with yachts. And the real estate is glorious. This home recently sold for $100 million. And it's not just the very rich who are doing well. These apartment buildings are home to Hong Kong's new middle class. They're even called the mid-levels. Economic freedom has allowed millions of poor people to become middle class. In fact, the average income here now is almost equal to that in the United States. And it's higher than that in many of the world's richest countries. Not as high as America's, 27,000, but almost, and higher than Australia, Italy, Great Britain, and Canada. It's amazing how quickly all this has happened. 20 years ago, none of this was here. 50 years ago, this was just another desperately poor Asian community. Hong Kong should teach us all a lesson on how to make everyone's life better, says Nobel Prize-winning economist Milton Friedman.
I was in Hong Kong in the 1950s, and you would never have wanted to live there. I saw the open shacks in which the refugees who were coming over were living. But they had the one key ingredient: freedom.
Freedom. Now, when people say freedom, I usually think of democracy, freedom to elect your representatives. But democracy alone doesn't make a country prosper. India's a democracy. It's similar to ours. Well, maybe a little louder. But they vote for representatives and a prime minister. They have freedom of religion, freedom of speech. Yet the poverty in India shows that democracy alone is not enough. The standard of living here is 100th what it is in Hong Kong. Yet Hong Kong's never had democracy. First they had the Chinese emperor, then the British rulers, now the Chinese communists. But Hong Kong's prospering because for years the British governor governed under a policy best described as benevolent neglect. By neglect, people mean the government didn't do much. Well, it built roads and schools, and the police and courts enforced simple and understandable laws against murder and theft. People knew that if they created something, it couldn't just be taken from them. But that was about it. No Federal Trade Commission, no OSHA, no labor laws or minimum wage for local workers. The British rulers basically sat around and drank tea.
If it can be done, it can be done here in Hong Kong.
This group of entrepreneurs agrees that Hong Kong's done something special.
Lovely. I like the idea of the tassels.
Amy Smilovic of Georgia likes to design clothing. Within days of arriving in Hong Kong, she had her own business.
It's the easiest thing I've ever done, actually.
Hong Kong was a city that was built on people getting a start from nothing, from no family background, no money, zero.
Hi, I'm Andy Nielsen. I'm the owner.
Andy Nielsen, who makes and sells toy soldiers here, says he couldn't have this business in his native Scotland because of all the high taxes and regulation. In Hong Kong, the government simply says,
let them get on with it, but don't look for any safety nets.
So that's cruel. Government should protect people. people from that?
You protect people from that and no one takes risks. You can't protect everyone from everything. This is the problem that's happening. It's been happening in the States. It's been happening in Europe, in Britain. We want to protect everyone from everything. You can't protect everyone from everything.
When you don't have a crutch to support you, it changes your attitude.
Brittany Schaefer, who works here for the Asian Wall Street Journal, says without the government crutch, people here are inspired to create things. And thanks to Hong Kong's flat 15% tax, they get to keep more of what they create.
It's possible to save enough money that you can start your own business and become very rich.
It's possible in America.
It's possible, but it's a lot more difficult. With all the different taxes, all the different employee benefits you have to pay out, and all the regulations, it's a lot more difficult.
But how can the government have enough to take care of people with only 15% of people's money?
This government makes a profit. It's the only government in the world that makes a surplus, a big surplus.
But what a cruel way to run a place. You're not taking care of the people who need help.
Enough to say that no one starves. You'll see more abject poverty in New York City than you will find right here in Hong Kong.
You do see poor people in Hong Kong, but it's nothing like Europe or America. Some say you see less of this in Hong Kong because here it's so easy for everyone to become an entrepreneur. Even a clueless American can open a business in a day. In my hometown, New York City, it takes weeks. I'd have to go to the licensing department and get a state tax number, a federal tax number.
So do you have the federal ID number?
Apply to the buildings department, the zoning board, and more. Here in Hong Kong, handing in one form was all I had to do.
Thank you, sir.
The next day, I was in an indoor shopping center, running my own business, Stossel Enterprises, selling ABC stuff. $10. Well, trying to sell it. Apparently not that many people here want ABC Frisbees and yo-yos. Well, no one promises you a successful business, but this opportunity to try, ABC yo-yo, even dumb ideas, is what's made Hong Kong thrive. By contrast, what if I tried to do this in India? In Calcutta, to start a business, you first have to go to this big building to get government permission. Even New York City's licensing rules are simple compared to this maze. You fill out form after form after form, and then you wait and wait for days or years. Well, the bureaucrats debate the merits of your application. It's all well-intended, rules to make sure the food's clean, that the building's safe. But the result is that so many good ideas die as forms bundled and stacked on shelves, already cluttered with bundles from other people who are waiting. These are all regulations designed to make life safer and better.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is nothing that does so much harm as good intentions.
You want any solution, you have to wait.
The bureaucracy's good intentions have been torturing clothing maker Kali Dutt. Dutt got an order from Japan for 1 million shirts, so he built this new factory. He hired 400 new workers, but then he couldn't get electricity. Electricity we take for granted is iffy in India. You have to get government approval to get it. At Dutt's old factory, it goes off and on. For 5 years, he tried to get a steady supply of electricity for his new factory. He wrote letters, filled out forms, argued with countless bureaucrats, until he gave up. The building's still there, and the equipment.
But we have suspended operations.
400 workers lost their jobs. While the politicians debate, the people suffer.
The poverty in India has created that vacant look in the eyes of the poor Indian, where he feels like this is the way it's always been, and this is the way it always will be.
Dinesh D'Souza is an author and research scholar at the American Enterprise Institute.
The government, in a sense, interferes in the ordinary rhythms of society. And by that I mean trying to decide for people how they should live their life.
When Indians get free from their government and go to Hong Kong, they thrive. And they thrive in America. 1 generation after they come here, Indians earn more than the average American.
India is full of smart people, but their brains are in the drains because the government doesn't let you blossom them out.
Kanwal Rekhi and these other immigrants started new computer companies when they came to California. They've created thousands of jobs for Americans. You couldn't do what you did here in India?
Oh, absolutely not. In India, you need license, permit, quota from politicians to do anything.
The problem is that Indians can do well everywhere except in India. They do so badly because they're not allowed to use their own abilities within India. The government tells them what to do.
But wait a second. Is it that simple? Maybe they and others succeed in America because of our great natural advantage, our fabulous resources. We do have a lot. Maybe that's why we've done so well.
But again, look at Hong Kong. The island is just a rock. It had no natural resources to speak of, no good farming land, no oil, not even enough drinking water. Yet still, millions of people came here to this rock and created all this.
It's a phenomenal thing. It's hard to believe. Here's a rock, nothing, a great harbor. And on this rock, people can produce for themselves a higher standard of living than they can produce in Britain with its centuries of history. Incredible.
Because of freedom.
Because of freedom? Absolutely because of freedom.